This is your boy Conejotako speaking, putting my thesis on hold just to do this. I was literally in the middle of drafting my theoretical framework, and right when I finished a paragraph, the episode dropped. So I rushed to get this ready for you guys. While I like this episode, honestly, I liked episode 4 more. This one felt more like a reaction episode to previous events with a big revelation at the end. Still, there are some interesting interactions I want to highlight and discuss with you soon. As always, a shout out to the channel members. They're the ones keeping me here on YouTube despite how busy I am. But just for this one time, I wanted to shout out the guy who DM'd me on Instagram asking for a hello. I told him I'd do it, so here I am keeping my word. Just to be clear though, this is the first and last time I'm doing a personal shout out like this. But I know you guys want to get into it, so let's speed this up. Welcome to the analysis of Art 10, Episode 5. The first part of the episode is basically just Reinhardt carrying the carriage with Subaru and the others on his back. Propelled by the strength and speed of the Sword Saint, they were able to arrive in seconds. Something interesting is that Reinhardt also has the divine protection of wind evasion, which is what ground dragons use when pulling carriages. This protection allows the carriage not to feel the effects of wind resistance. So, the guy never ceases to amaze us by stealing protections from other races. Let's see if he asks for one to fix his family relationships, because it's never too late for therapy. There's some interesting chatter, like the mention of the Reinhardt Law, which states the knight cannot leave his country's borders unless he has permission from the country he wants to visit. The novel also makes it clear that Reinhardt can't abuse this transport method because using it too much to favor Felt's camp could be judged as an unfair use of the Sword Saint's powers for the faction. I know there's some logic behind this, but I think it's mostly the author telling us that, as convenient as this is, he's going to limit this transport method from now on. So, consider us warned. But I think the funniest part of all this is that while everyone was in the carriage being carried by Reinhardt, he could still chat with the people he was carrying thanks to his divine protection of telepathy, which allows him to speak into others' minds. Although it seems he can't reach people who don't consider him a friend, it's emphasized that Mei Li, for example, couldn't hear him well. But then, an interesting part of the episode begins, at least in my opinion. We see not only Subaru's reaction to the appearance of the new missing princess, but also Rom's reaction to it. Something I consider fundamental is that we must pay close attention to Rom in any matter regarding the kidnapped princess. And I say this because of the following video I'm about to play.
Did you know that, just as Amelia once dreamed of the tale of Alice in Wonderland, Felt is also tormented by a strange and recurring dream? However, unlike Amelia, Felt has experienced this for as long as she can remember, unaware that, in reality, it is her oldest and most painful memory. In the dream, she isn't the thief we know, but a baby. She is trapped in a small box, staring up at an immensely high ceiling, unable to move. Suddenly, she hears two voices discussing her fate. One feels familiar but is filled with disgust. The other is unknown, yet charged with an affection so deep it breaks her heart. The loving voice admits he is secretly giving away his own daughter, confessing that if his brother or his wife found out, they would never allow it. The other voice, the one that sounds disgusted, accepted the job solely to settle an old debt. It is then that the loving man peeks into the box. Although his face is obscured by shadows, Felt distinguishes two unmistakable traits: golden hair and red eyes, the absolute trademark of the Lugunica royal family. The man lifts her from the box with infinite gentleness. As he rocks her, his voice trembles as he whispers how fast she has grown, lamenting that the day will come when his arms will no longer be enough to hold her. In that dream, little Felt can feel the man's heartbeat, a sound that brings her peace and the urge to cry all at the same time. But that peace is shattered instantly when she is handed over to different arms. Huge, calloused, rough hands hold her crudely. This is where we recognize Old Man Rom, or rather, Valga Cromwell. The giant looks down at her with disdain, bitterly lamenting how low he has fallen. The greatest human killer of the last war is now forced to save the most important family of the race he swore to exterminate. Little Felt senses that hatred and is terrified. She tries to scream, wanting to return to the warmth of the red-eyed man, but it is useless. The giant begins to walk, carrying her into the darkness, far away from her father. As they drift away, the last thing she hears from the golden-haired man isn't an apology. It is a final promise. "I love you, forever and ever." Those were the last words her father spoke to her before vanishing from her life. This dream confirms that Felt's famous kidnapping, the event that shook the kingdom 14 years ago and caused Teresia's death along with the dissolution of the royal guard led by Wilhelm, was not a crime. It was a desperate act of love. Her father, Ford Lagunica, gave her away to save her from the mysterious disease that was annihilating the entire royal lineage. Things at the palace were so dire due to the royal plague that he had to entrust his daughter to the reformed criminal Valga Cromwell. And Valga, despite his hatred for humanity, kept his promise. Ironically, raising that human girl was the only thing that managed to erase the resentment he still harbored in his heart toward humans.
It's obvious Ram plays a part in this. The most interesting thing is that in today's episode, he tells Subaru the princess was kidnapped 14 years ago, but at no point does he say he was the one who did it. It's normal that he doesn't say it, since that remains a shared secret between Felt's father Ram, Ida and Reinhardt, who found out somehow. Then there's another interesting revelation, but first let's talk about brief details, especially the detail about Subaru saying he wouldn't have minded absorbing Crush's curse even if it brought serious consequences to him. I don't know why people criticize Subaru for not doing it sooner. I mean, when Subaru offered to do it, he was about to go fight Regulus. Crush considered it wasn't a good idea for Subaru to carry that burden into his fight. But finally, this mention of the dragon's blood in Subaru confirmed something interesting, something the novel's illustrator has been constantly ruining for a long time. You see, in today's episode, Subaru says his leg still has the black tone. In Arc 7, Subaru lost the black tone on his arm in an incident with Vincent, but we doubted whether the black tone on his leg had also disappeared. On top of that, it didn't help that in the official illustrations, Otsuka drew Subaru without the black tone on that part of his body. We knew the illustration was wrong, but we couldn't prove it because, well, it's the official art. So today, with Subaru saying his leg is actually still black, we finally have the final confirmation. Hopefully, Otsuka corrects this error in future illustrations soon. Then Subaru thinks about the well-being of his future fourth wife, Crush, and says what we're all saying, that all of this is a complicated decision because of everything it brings with it. Then when he mentions Felt and Filore, he says something I think the fandom needs to know and understand. Just because Felt is really the missing princess doesn't imply she will automatically win the royal selection. I think we all agree here that Felt is a peculiar girl, a girl who wants to win on her own merits and not by a handed victory. In fact, after learning about Priscilla's death and Crush's healing, she herself says she doesn't want to win that way. I'm sure when it's confirmed she's the missing princess, two things will happen. Either she says she wants to continue with the selection, or she accepts being queen just to order the selection to continue. Subaru also has his thoughts on this. He actually gets very frustrated with the situation because he feels all the candidates have worked hard and risked their lives, so it wouldn't be fair to end the selection that way. Honestly, I support Subaru on this part. Fortunately, I'm sure things will turn out well for him and the other royal factions. But to close this part, there's a recap of all the things that must be resolved soon, which are: he was worried about what Emilia thinks of the situation, he wanted to visit Crush, he wanted to meet Filore, he also wanted to speak with the Council of Wise Men, and finally find out the details of Al's sphere and discover the reasons that made him rebel. Personally, I'm most hyped to know about the talk Subaru will have with the Council of Wise Men, who are going to reward the protagonist for the things he has achieved in Arcs 5, 6, 7, and 8. In fact, the author once commented that the elders were confused about how to reward the boy who, for some strange reason, keeps achieving great feats. Anyway, we'll see what comes of it. Before moving to the next section, I'm very curious about a phrase Beatrice says, mentioning she feels she has been moving non-stop for 11.5 years. We can interpret this in several ways. Some say it's the date when Rem and Ram arrived at the mansion more than 10 years ago, but an acquaintance on the platform says maybe it's the time Beatrice lived before she was left alone for 400 years. Although others say it's actually a fourth wall break, and the 11 years are the time Betty has been out of the library since Subaru helped her. Either way, I hope the author doesn't forget to answer this. But let's move to the next part of the episode. Honestly, I was surprised Subaru went to see Rem. In retrospect, it's understandable he went to see her because of everything that happened at the end of Arc 9, but I can't understand why the hell he didn't take her with him to see Roy. And I imagine they will expand on that soon, or maybe they just won't delve into the matter. And finally, we arrive at the prison tower, a place where the author didn't kill himself thinking of a name from what I see. In this place, they tell us how it's distributed and built, and by the way, they revealed just now in the main story that the Archbishop of Wrath was imprisoned here. But the cool kids who read the novel already knew about this because of the following video I'm about to play, which has a lot to do with a secret organization that might make its move soon. And no, I'm not referring to the witch cult. ReZero's secret organization. Who would have thought that Wilhelm would be the indirect cause behind the formation of the group known as the Six Tongues? You see, the Six Tongues were formed when Wilhelm recommended Orphex to serve as the assistant of the young Bordeaux. Orphex, unlike those who uphold public justice, achieved his goals by any means necessary. He was willing to get his hands dirty for the sake of his objectives, something quite useful for a kingdom that seeks peace. Because of how questionable their methods are, the group operates from the shadows. However, thanks to a side story involving Julius, we already know there is a rumor circulating in the army about the existence of a hidden division of knights. Julius tried to investigate, but he was told to mind his own business, and even he admitted that it was wiser to follow that advice. It is not surprising that Julius backed off, especially considering that even Reinhardt himself was once intimidated and threatened by them after making a mistake. I will not go into detail about how that happened, but they visited Reinhardt's house when he was still a child and made it clear that he had better serve the kingdom for his family's sake. It is said that those words are something Reinhardt has never forgotten. Since then, they've been operating out of the public eye. Their leader was actually there, keeping an eye on and helping out Subaru during his fight against the White Whale. They're also known as the ones responsible for imprisoning Sirius, the actual Sin Archbishop, using special magical stones that were once used on Satella herself. On top of that, it's been confirmed that they've got important folks in key positions across several cities in the kingdom. For example, the mayor of Kostal, a city near Roswell's mansion, is known to be a member of this organization. But who's in charge? You might already know him from the anime. The head honcho of this organization is none other than Russell Fellow, the merchant who lent a hand to Subaru in the first season. He helped out Subaru not just because he cares about the kingdom, but also because of the cell phone Subaru had on him. He doesn't realize the phone's useless in this new world, but Russell's always paying attention to these mysterious objects. They often turn out to be relics from the witches. He goes to great lengths because one never knows when an item might pose a danger. Hopefully, we'll learn more about him soon. It was the Six Tongues who imprisoned Sirius, and their novel narrates all the trouble they had to go through. That's why I find it interesting to know, or deduce, how the hell someone managed to enter the prison tower and dismember Roy. But no matter how much security there is, that shouldn't be difficult for a shapeshifter, meaning it shouldn't be hard for someone like Capella to enter and cause a ruckus. Although I have to admit, it's kind of funny to imagine that when Arc 9 started, apparently Capella and the church were working together, and just when they were about to strike their first blow, Aldebaran made his move and screwed up all their plans. Poor Aldebaran. He was actually a hero all along, but we just couldn't see it. But anyway, putting the idiocy aside, I think Roy isn't dead. Just as there is someone who can adopt the form of a person, that same someone can also change the appearance of their victims. So it's not crazy to believe the remains of the supposed Roy are actually just the remains of some poor bastard. Personally, I choose to believe Tepe still has plans for the Archbishop of Gluttony, and we can only wait. I hope the next episode comes out at a friendly time for me. The good thing is that in 19 days, the first part of my thesis ends, and I hope soon to be able to fully dedicate myself to this again. But anyway, remember a like and a comment help the algorithm like you have no idea, so consider leaving one. See ya.